Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain. Today our show is about one of the most dangerous terrorist groups in the world and the most dangerous terrorist outfit in Nigeria, Boko Haram. Today the guest of our show is Kofi Bartels, radio broadcaster for Nigeria Info FM. Welcome to our show, Kofi. This is Zain Khan. It's a pleasure to have you on Tactical Talk.
Thank you very much, Zain. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Kofi, let's get to the first question. When did the group Boko Haram emerge?
The group Boko Haram emerged in the year 2002 in the Nigerian city of Maiduguri. Maiduguri is the capital of Borno State, and Borno State happens to be in northeast Nigeria. It is a hotbed of Boko Haram, basically.
Kofi Bartels, let's get to the second question. What is Boko Haram's ideology?
All right. Well, Boko Haram basically started in 2002 as a sect. Basically wanted to entrench Islamic values in the city of Maiduguri. It was a pretty small sect. They believed in the strict implementation and interpretation of Sharia. And their point of view was that Western education is anti-Islam and has no place in an Islamic society. So that was the ideology that led to the setup of Boko Haram. That's what they functioned with. It is basically a Sunni Islamic fundamentalist sect, and it is slightly influenced by Wahhabism. And so they advocated for a strict implementation of Islam, Sharia law. But the word Boko Haram means that Western education is sin, you know. So that's what really led to their setting up. That's what they were founded on.
In which ways was Boko Haram's ideology, or is Boko Haram's ideology, similar to that of ISIS, aka Daesh?
Well, basically, ISIS is trying to establish an Islamic caliphate, and they succeeded in a way to get that, on ground in some parts of Iraq, and Syria. Boko Haram, at a point, grew beyond what people really expected that they could grow to be. And they began to plant their flags in parts of northeastern Nigeria and went ahead to declare an Islamic caliphate, a territory basically, just like ISIS did. And to a lot of people watching and onlookers and observers and analysts, they began to interpret this as Boko Haram taking some inspiration from ISIS. As a matter of fact, a part of the Boko Haram sect had sworn allegiance to Al-Qaeda, and gotten support from Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb. So you have a trail of weapons and support coming from Northern Africa down through to northern Nigeria. So you have that similarity between ISIS and Boko Haram.
Okay, let's look at it from a different angle. In which ways is Boko Haram's ideology different from that of ISIS?
Okay, basically, Boko Haram, is basically looking at Africa, and it's based in Africa, and has, drawn inspiration from Al-Qaeda. You look at the statements of the political leader of Boko Haram, and the spiritual leader of Boko Haram. He comes out on TV, on the internet, to make statements and to issue decrees and to issue warnings and to even tell of times when they will bomb different places in Nigeria. And I haven't really seen that play out with ISIS, where you have the leader of ISIS, being seen only once in a particular mosque, in Iraq, and I haven't seen him come out since then. But for the head of Boko Haram, who is Shekau, the Nigerian army has told us several times that he has been killed, but he keeps surfacing in videos, and he keeps threatening the Nigerian state, even threatens leaders, and will tell you, we're going to bomb this place at this time, and it happens. And so you begin to see that there's a little difference between the style of ISIS and the style of Boko Haram. But in terms of the impact, the carnage, the deaths and destruction, there's some similarities there.
Okay, this is a very important question. What methods did Boko Haram use to recruit people, and what was their narrative?
Oh, fantastic. Boko Haram has played on the the situation of the Nigerian economy, where you have a large percentage of people, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, poorly educated or uneducated, and vulnerable to different sorts of ideologies and different sorts of influences. Northern Nigeria happens to be the most deprived part of the country educationally and economically. And so you have a lot of people out there just waiting to be used. You have a culture in northern Nigeria called the al-Majiri system, al-Majiri culture, where young boys, children from the young age, are taught to go onto the streets to beg, and they sit around at the mosque and hang around for handouts from wealthy Muslims. And so these have become um, the base for which Boko Haram has built itself. They've been able to take advantage of the poverty, lack of education of these young people, lack of jobs, and have used them as these foot soldiers. You also have another school of thought, those who say that Boko Haram uses the young children, especially girls it kidnaps, as suicide bombers. After the Chibok girls kidnap some years ago, you had the onset and an increase in suicide bombing in northeastern Nigeria. And most of those who were carrying out these suicide bombings were young girls, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, teenagers. And people began to draw that relationship. So that's been the foundation for the army that Boko Haram has put together.
Kofi, since when did the Nigerian military start their operation on Boko Haram, and what compelled them to do so?
Fantastic. The Nigerian military has been up in northeastern Nigeria from day one. As a matter of fact, you had security forces arresting the original leader of Boko Haram and take him into custody. Now, he was killed by while in custody extrajudiciously, and that led to the escalation of what do you call it, of the fighting. That led to the escalation, and they declared war on the Nigerian state. So from then you had the security agencies trying to arrest and round these guys up, but they weren't treating this with all the importance that they should have treated it. As a matter of fact, a Nigerian president is noted famously for saying that the federal government of Nigeria treated this Boko Haram insurgency with kids' gloves. Now, Boko Haram carried out about 115 attacks in the year 2011, killing, according to reports, 550 Nigerians. So this was an escalation on the scale that Nigerians had never, ever seen it before. And now this led to Nigerians clamoring on the calling of the government to declare a state of emergency in that part of the country. And this was declared in the year 2012 after the escalation of this particular fight. The government of Borno State, which is the host state of Boko Haram, where you have Maiduguri, was suspended, and the military law was put in place. And so they had the military guy sent to northeastern Nigeria, to that state. But then Nigerians began to see that they were moving not just from town to town in Borno State, but they moved to other states in the northeastern part of Nigeria, namely Yobe State and Adamawa State. And it became a regional thing. So in 2012, the Nigerian government began the military operation by declaring officially a state of emergency, and that's when it started.
Approximately how long has the war with Boko Haram been?
Well, if you look at the years from 2012 to 2017, you're looking at 5 years. But interestingly, Zain, this isn't the first time that something like this has happened in Nigeria. Way back in the 1980s, when Nigeria's current president, Buhari, was a governor of this same Borno state, a group came up called Metasine, also, espousing, or rather also advocating for an Islamic state in northern Nigeria. And they launched attack on military formations and tried to do what Boko Haram is doing right now. Interestingly, Nigeria's current president was the military officer in charge of chasing them out of Nigeria. He chased them all the way to the Republic of Chad, which is a neighboring country to Nigeria, and crushed that insurgency. So Nigeria has a history. This is probably the second time, and sort of a pattern of what happened in the 1980s.
Kofi, can you give us a little information on which areas were under Boko Haram's control before the military operation, and how many are still under their control at the moment?
All right, Boko Haram basically took control of very few number of local government areas at their height. When this was just after you had the Chibok girls attack. They led attacks on Nigerian military formations. We had videos of soldiers being attacked, and other videos of soldiers running away. In fact, there was a particular instance of Nigerian soldiers fleeing into Cameroon. At a point, Boko Haram controlled one local government area. A local government area is a geographical area of government. It is the lowest unit of governance in Nigeria. You have a president, you have a state governors, that's the regions, and then in each state or each region you have a local government. And local government is massive because you have a system of government, a chairman of the local government, and you have councillors in each local government area. And so for Boko Haram to take over a single local government area was a big deal. The Nigerian government did all it could to kick them out of that local government area. At their height, they controlled about at least of Borno State, which is in northeastern Nigeria. And it took quite a lot of responsibility, or rather reaction and action on the part of the Nigerian forces to kick them out. As it stands, Boko Haram controls a large expanse of Borno State, but that large expanse or sizable expanse is basically a forest with no one living there. The Zambisa forest is a really big forest. It's the size of some countries in the world. And that is the base from which Boko Haram operates. The Nigerian military has found it very difficult to sweep Zambisa forest. Nigerians were asking what the problem was, because that is where the Chibok girls were kept. And the Nigerian military had to say, see, this forest is so big, it's the size of some countries. We do not have the capabilities to sweep every corner of Zambisa forest to smoke out Boko Haram. So as it is today, Boko Haram is still in Zambisa forest. They still have a base. They shoot videos from there. They send out propaganda materials from there. They still have some Chibok girls in Zambisa forest, and that they control that part. They also are in parts of Chad and parts of northern Cameroon, where the military forces of those countries have not been able to kick them out from.
Okay, last question. Till this present day, what are the achievements of the Nigerian government and military against Boko Haram?
Fantastic. Zain, one of the biggest achievements would be the return of a number of Chibok girls back to their parents. The current federal government came into power campaigning, on the campaign trail, saying that the previous government of Jonathan didn't really do much to secure the release of the Chibok girls. It's been quite a popular or famous story around the world. A lot of world leaders, joined the calls for the release of the Chibok girls, and the Nigerian government just was not able to crack that. The current federal government of Nigeria, led by Muhammadu Buhari, campaigned on a promise of getting the Chibok girls released. And though all the girls have not been released, a sizable number of the girls have been released, and the federal government does not spare any effort to remind Nigerians that they are delivering on the promise, and they keep reminding Nigerians that they are making efforts to get the girls released. Now, Nigerians are divided in opinion as to whether the federal government should negotiate with the terrorists or not. Apart from that achievement, another achievement is kicking Boko Haram out of the local governments that they occupied, like I just told you, and basically getting their flags down and chasing them back into the forest. Nigerians could not stand the fact that a part of their country was being controlled by a terrorist organization, and they kept increasing that control and expanding their territory into other local government areas. So I think the reclamation of Nigerian sovereign territory in terms of the local government areas and also the return of some Chibok girls would stand out as major achievements by the federal government. But Nigeria's president is, interestingly, Buhari, on his return from London, gave a speech, a national broadcast, and he admitted to the fact that in recent months, Boko Haram has stepped up its suicide bombing campaigns, and they've also come out with a flurry of activity that the Nigerian military and authorities are not used to. And he promised that there'll be increased military efforts to try and stem the tide. Thankfully, the American government has agreed to give the Nigerian military some weapons. That was a problem in the past, and it remains to be seen if this new cooperation with the United States would bear results.
Thanks so much, Kofi Bartels, for being on Tactical Talk. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Zain Khan. Pleasure is mine.
This was Kofi Bartels, radio broadcast journalist for Nigeria Info FM. We were discussing Nigeria's most dangerous terrorist outfit, Boko Haram. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain Khan. Take care and goodbye.